This is Universal Geneve calibre 281, and if you haven't seen part 1, I suggest we part series, stripping down, cleaning, and putting back together this chronograph movement. So what we did in the last video was to fit the balance back onto the balance cock and oil it. So now I'm going to take that off again and start putting the base movement back together. We had a broken ratchet wheel. Fortunately, our part supplier had one left. So I believe that was meant to be, and just to check, they look very similar. Perfect. Excellent. So now we have a ratchet wheel. This one had a broken tooth. You can see that here. And that's not very practical. So throw that in the bin and we will use this one. So what we're going to do is simply put it in as such and press it down because it's already wound up in this container ring. So you want to put this hook down as close to your barrel hook as possible. There we go. So now it's time to put the barrel lid back onto the barrel. So, there we go. We'll put that to the side for now. So today we got quite nice sunshine outside, and it's actually reaching the workbench. So you can see the lighting is natural sunlight today. Carefully lift this balance away. So let's start by fitting the ratchet wheel on the underside of the train bridge, gear train bridge, because if we don't fit that now, we'll have a slight problem later on. Let's have a look. Let's put some oil onto that. That can be slightly lubricated when engaged. We have this retaining plate that goes on top here, which is screwed in place by these two little screws. So what you can notice is they have a high gloss finish on the underside and dull on the top side. So the screw heads are dull, but the entering point of the screw is highly polished, and that's because you can see that on the other side of the gear train bridge. There you can see the screws on the other side. Pretty nice. Now we can actually start putting the gear train back into the movement, which is exciting. Put a drop of oil on the barrel arbor, drop of oil on the center wheel. That's of course not the barrel arbor, but it's a barrel arbor hole. So that's our barrel, first wheel, second wheel, center wheel, third wheel, fourth wheel. So now we can drop our new ratchet wheel in place. That fits nicely, very good. And now we can put our gear train bridge back in place. I'm going to align these pivots underneath the microscope, as it helps me see where everything is before I press the gear train plate down bridge, because if I just do this blind, I'm going to break something. That was a good idea, because one pivot was completely out. Now it's in place, and what we now can do is secure the gear train bridge. Oh, I almost did a big mistake there. Got to go back. This is what happens when you're focused on filming and making sure things look good. And that is the setting lever spring. That would not be the first time I've done that. I've put the complete chronograph almost together and then realized I've forgotten the setting lever screw when it came to putting the winding setting mechanism back in place. Don't do that. There we go. Right, we're going to do this under the microscope again. Okay, gear train bridge back on, and now with the setting lever screw in place. There we go. That's our gear train bridge back in place, and of course this time with the setting lever screw where it should be. Now I'm just securing the gear train bridge screws. The next wheel to go in is the escape wheel, and that has its own little cock that holds that in place. have a look under the microscope again, make sure that is lined up. It is. A little test is just to nudge the center wheel like that. You can see everything's moving freely. I really hope I can get this watch together today because I've been quite looking forward to wearing it. All right, next I'm going to oil the gear train. So 90-10 here, 90-20 in there I believe it's called, and here. I'm going to do that under the microscope to make sure I get the right amount. And then I'm going to flip the movement around, oil the other side, and we're going to start putting the setting and winding mechanism back in place. So there we go, the gear train is oiled. Now time to put the setting and winding mechanism back together. I always like to fit the cannon pin in first, because if I put the intermediate minute wheel in here, it will be difficult to get down. And look, is that engaged properly? I believe it is. Yes, it is. Good stuff. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease onto the winding pinion teeth to allow them to slip freely if you're reversing the crown when winding, like so. Quite an unusual design on this one, very nice. Goes in this way, and the next will be to grease sliding surfaces on the sliding pinion. So this is where the yoke goes. I'll put a little bit of grease on there because that's going to spin around when you're winding your watch, like so. And I'm going to put grease onto the stem. Here we go, stem in place. Now we can put the, now we're going to put the setting lever back in place. So for this we have to loosen the movement, flip it around, get to the setting lever screw and tighten it, like so. That goes into the groove here, holding it in place. Put a little bit of grease here. That was a little bit much. Take a little bit off the top, like so. And now we can fit the yoke. There we go. Yoke lever there. Again, oil up the contact points, which is here. Just going to slide on the setting lever. Make sure that's oiled up, greased up nicely. Let's put a little bit of grease on the back here where the yoke spring is going to engage. While we're at it, we might as well put a drop of oil where the intermediate setting wheels are going. Take a photo for the library. usually have photo galleries of all the watches I service. They are available at mitka.co.uk, and then go into photo library. Have a look we're going to have a look under the microscope on this one, or maybe we don't have to. I don't think we have to. You can see it's beveled on one side, and the beveled side is what engages with the sliding pinion here. If you do it the other way around, you're going to get a very rough time setting on this watch. Not always the case, but quite often. It's the yoke spring. The yoke spring allows the yoke to slide back down, engaging the sliding pinion into winding position. And when you pull this out, it will be tensioned, and then when you clip the crown back in, it will help push this yoke down and engage the winding. So very important little spring. And now we have the setting lever positioning spring. What this does is help keep the watch in winding position or in setting position. So it engages with the setting lever here, and it literally holds the setting lever more in place when you're winding the watch. You can notice when these are broken is when you're going to set the watch and it constantly wants to go back to winding because the yoke's being pushed down. This allows it to click into place when you're setting the watch. So not essential, but very, very nice when not broken. Again, Christian at watchguy.co.uk, he has CNC machined these, and with quite a lot of success, which is quite impressive. I would really like to do some CNC machining myself, but I simply don't have the space for a CNC machine at the moment, and it does cost quite a bit of time and cash to set up. So for now, I'm going to just dream about doing it, but one day I hope to CNC machine parts myself. A very, very practical tool in the watchmaker trade. So setting lever spring in, can put a bit of grease in there to allow the sliding action. So we can set the time. There we go. We got tension in our cannon pinion, which is good. See how that clicks into place, allows that to stay there, and also holds it in the winding position. A little bit of surplus oil, which we can get rid of in the vertical, like so. That looks very nice. So today, I guess with the natural sunlight, you get to see every little scratch and defect on this movement, but to be honest, it's in very good condition considering it's as old as it is and has seen a few watchmakers along the road, I'm sure. But I think it's survived particularly well. There's no plating loss such, and not even that scratch, to be honest. Anyway, let's start putting the pallet fork in and see if we can get this watch running, and we'll see how it's performing, and then we'll go from there. There's no point putting all the chronograph mechanism back together if you don't have a well-running watch. It's got a very nice pallet fork, highly polished. Let me check this under the microscope. I really don't want to break the pallet fork pivot. So, movement has been wound. The next thing we're going to do is oil the escapement, and for that we're going to use a little bit of pallet oil. We're going to put a little droplet on the tip of the surface of the jewel here, and then I'm going to distribute it like this. I'm going to do that under the microscope so I can see how much oil goes on and how evenly it gets distributed. Here you can see the oil on the pallet. Which I then distribute in such a way. I'm going to put a little bit more oil on the pallet and repeat until I'm happy with the distribution. And now for the moment of truth, and that is to fit the balance and see if it will run. So what I'm going to do is there's a balance impulse pin on the underside here that needs to engage with the pallet fork. I'm carefully using my fingers so I can actually feel what's going on when I'm putting the balance cock back on, because if you get the wrong angle you're going to break your balance stuff. So a good start is that the balance is swinging back and forth. Let's secure that in place, like so. There we go. Excellent. That looks fairly healthy as well. And let's put that on the time graph and see what kind of adjustments we need to do. So, that doesn't look too good, to be honest. What I did notice is that the new mainspring seemed to be a bit thinner than the old one. I just followed the supplier's guidance when I ordered that, so I do think the mainspring is a little bit thin, hence the slightly low amplitude, because I have a very nicely free moving gear train and have a nicely free moving balance. So I'm going to have a look at my hairspring and see if I might swap that out with a slightly thicker one. So here you can see I've adjusted the movement. The amplitude is 213, which is way too low for a non-engaged chronograph. So I'm going to actually have a look at the old mainspring here, or the one that was in the watch, and it's looks to be in very good condition. There's no bends or kinks in it, so I'm going to put that back in and see what the watch does. Okay, after measuring the old mainspring, it was 0.1 thicker than the new one, and you can see the amplitude difference quite clearly. So after a bit of adjustment, we are now going about plus 10 seconds a day, 274 amplitude. Quite happy with that. Let's turn the movement around and see what it does. 0.1 beta is very happy with that, especially as it's a lift angle of 42 degrees, makes the adjustment much tighter. .261 amplitude. Now it's losing a little bit of time. -4 seconds a day. You know what? For being a watch from 1937, this is a miracle. I'm very, very happy with it. Okay, with that, let's start putting the chronograph module back together. We can start with the column wheel. So with the column wheel in place, we can put the column wheel tension spring on. Which is not this spring, but let's have a look. This spring. So we're going to put a bit of blue grease on that, on the contact surface. So you have two little pins here that go into the train bridge. I need to get that aligned. And here you can see how much tension is going to go into that spring. Like so. And we also have a screw to secure that in place. So, next I'm going to fit the intermediate minute recorder. That comes in here. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of blue grease on the contact areas, which is on the lower part of the step of the screw. Now this has an engaging spring. I'm just going to find the correct one here. And it's the spring for the intermediate minute recorder wheel. Good stuff. Next, we could put the start-stop lever, or the locking lever for the seconds recorder wheel. Here we go, that's the right screw. the start-stop lever also has a small spring. Again, we're going to grease the contact point. This spring has a tall screw head. Comes in here. The screw head also acts as the resting guard for the reset spring, reset lever that comes on later. The reset hammer, that is, not spring. Speaking of reset lever, that's going to come in now. Here, let's put a bit of grease on where the push is going to engage later on. There we go. And now, how about fitting the start-stop lever? This one, I'm just going to take a little bit of oil inside here. I'm going to put that under the microscope. Just a tiny bit of 9010 to keep that nice and lubricated. The puzzle's getting smaller, so it's easier to find the correct screws and levers now. And the start-stop lever also has a tension spring that makes sure that it engages, which is this one. Let's put a bit of grease here. There we go. Now we can actually start, engage and disengage the chronograph. Let's secure this better, like so. There's no space for this corner to be secured here, so I'll smooth that around a bit. There we go. Very nice. We'll put a bit of grease on the column wheel there as well, where the start-stop lever contacts. Into that under the microscope. Very smooth and nice. No wear in the column wheel, the plate there, which helps. And now for the overlaying chronograph wheel. That's push fit, and I like to fit that as lightly as possible, just enough for it not to slip, as I don't want that to be stuck on forever. So now the movement's stopped, and that's because the spring here, I believe, is touching it. No, just got a bit of a shock. Anyway, it's working. So it's had a little, it's got a little shock there. There you go. Anyway, it's working. Now for the intermediate seconds recorder wheel. I'm going to oil these two pivot points here and here under the microscope. And we can put a tiny bit of grease here on the regulating screw, eccentric regulating screw. It's not really a screw, but it's pushed in, but the eccentric regulator, I guess it's called, comes in here. Put a little bit of grease on the tip here that engages with the column wheel. Put a little bit of grease on the side here that touches the shouldered screw. Such. Now for the tension spring of the intermediate chronograph recorder driving wheel here, that comes in like this. And put a little bit of grease on that as well. Try not to drop the screws into the movement. It's a good idea. It's Friday, I'm keen for the weekend, but I'm also keen to get this watch going, so we'll get there. There we go. That gives us the tension it needs to bounce into position. Good. Now for the what should we do now? I think I'm going to fit the tension spring for the reset hammer, and I'm going to pre-grease the contact point here. I don't know if anyone notices, but I have done a little bit of refinishing on some of the levers here as they were pitted, and I think it looks nice when they're nice and shiny. Not absolutely necessary, but just, you know, why not? So at this point I'm going to fit the seconds recorder runner here. I'm going to put a little drop of 9010 at the bottom. There. have our minute recorder. Might as well give that a little drop as well. So. Pretty much fall into place. And for the minute recorder and seconds recorder cock that comes on top here, again I'm going to have a quick look under the microscope, make sure the pivots are lined up, which they now are, and to secure it, there we go. Engaging, disengaging. Do believe this should come down. So the spring is not engaging properly. Let me have a look under the microscope. Right, so what's happening is that this spring here, which engages the sweep or the seconds recorder runner, which when in stop position should stop it, engage and stop the wheel from moving around so the second hand stays in place. The tension spring has lost its tension, so we'll have to take that off again. And break it. No, I need to try and bend it a little bit, see if we can get a little bit more tension in it, or break it in the process. Let's see. That's as much as I dare to bend that. That might just be enough. Let's see. Looks promising. Always very scary to tension springs like that. Okay. And you know what? I do believe that did the trick. See? Chronograph engaged. Disengaged. You see that's now locking. That has the tension it needs. Oh, that was nice. Anyway, okay, upwards and onwards. Now it's time for the resetting hammer, which has two resetting surfaces, which I'm going to put a bit of grease on to help them realign the cams on the minute recorder and seconds recorder. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on the pillar, which it is going to slide onto here. And I'm also going to wiggle the resetting spring, or the resetting spring here under the microscope, as I'm afraid to break it. Okay, I've taken the spring off because I do believe it's easier to fit it this way around actually. Yep, that's the right way of fitting it you put the reset hammer in first, push it a little bit in, and then you can put the spring in and secure it. Excellent. Alright, proof's in the pudding. Start, stop, and should hit the lever by going in here. Reset. Lovely. Very happy with that. I do have this spring, which is a bit of a nightmare. It's slightly deformed, but works. And I'm just not man enough to reshape that. That is terrifying. Number one, they are made of unobtainium. Number two, I don't have the CNC machine to refabricate one. Well, there's quite a bit of tension in that spring. It might be too much, so I'll have to put that on the time graph while running it and see if it eats the amplitude. That will give me an indication if it's fine. So anyway, start, stop, and reset. Okay, cool. Let's I'm going to let the movement run with chronograph engaged and see if it works, and see if I need to adjust the depthing. So one thing I noticed earlier is that my tension spring for the second recorder is way too strong. It's tensioned upwards too much, so I have to reshape that so it's a bit flatter. I've also managed to reshape the spring for the seconds recorder, as you can see here. That was also a bit too strong the way it was. It was completely bent here. You can see that on the former video how bad it is, or just, yeah. So now I'm going to unscrew this and reshape it so it doesn't come up as far. Okay, here we got that spring. It's still riding upwards, but not as dramatically as it was before. So hopefully that will help us in the with the amplitude while the chronograph is engaged. Okay, well that had the desired effect of reducing the amplitude while the chronograph is running. Increasing the amplitude, I mean, not reducing it. It was reducing the friction of the spring, and it's still tension enough, hopefully not to have a stuttering seconds recorder. So it's time to put the dial back on. So I'm going to fit the hour wheel on here now, like so. Then we're going to loosen the dial screws. This one's out already, and this one like so. And we're going to fit the dial. First of all, I'm going to fit the minute recorder sub hand. Okay, minute recorder hand on and the sub second hand on. Let's put the hour hand on. Goes there. Comes the minute hand. See how that lines up. Beautiful leaf hands on these. Maybe we need to move that minute hand a little bit further because I'd like that to hit the 12 o'clock. Have a look at that again. That's pretty nice. Good. And now for the seconds recorder hand. Okay, quite happy with that. For now, I'm going to case the movement. So now I got to remove the winding stem again. Like so. And we can pop the movement into the case. Oh, look, there's two little notches here where the movement sits. That's nice. Falls into place. I will insert the crown now. Keep the movement in place, and I'm going to fit the bezel with the crystal. Make sure that I'm putting the this little slot here on the side so we can access that later again. So. You can see that slot. Let's push fit. And movement around. And now we can fit the reset, start, stop, reset pushers. This is the start, stop pusher. Comes in here. I put a little bit of grease on the sliding and contact points. Now we can secure that pusher with this screw. Goes in there. Make sure it gets into the groove. There we go. That's the first pusher secured. And we still have the second pusher. And then we have this little retaining screw here, which you really don't want to break right now. Be careful, it's tiny. Put a little bit of grease on the contact points again, like so. There we go. Tighten that again. So don't overdo that. There you go, there's the reset. Start, stop, reset. Start, stop, reset. Lovely. It's a good start. Yeah, I've cleaned up the movement a bit. Remove any dust or fibers that might find their way back into the movement while the case pack is off. I'm working on it. So now we're going to secure the movement. One case screw. It has happened, but I have serviced fairly complicated chronograph, more complicated than this, and the case screw breaks off as I'm tightening it. I don't really want to talk about it as I'm doing it, but that is not fun. There we go. And there we have it. Girrard Perregaux Universal Geneve caliber 281, newly serviced and ready to be enjoyed by none other than myself. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to give you a dial shot as well. And we also got to fit the case back, of course. It's going to go back on. Let's get a couple of victory photos of that open. And let's put the case back on. Here you can see the little groove there. I'm going to put that to the opposite side of the crown, so next time somebody opens it, it's fairly easy. This goes snap, hence the name Snap-on Case Back. And there you have it. Very nice 1930s chronograph that I'm proud to own. I did buy a strap for it, so I'm going to pop that on now and let me know what you think. So, strap of choice is this matte blue lizard strap, and I've got a couple of female spring bars that will hopefully work on this case. So first we've got to get these spring bars into the strap. Gently does it. Here we go. And hopefully those spring bars will fit onto the case. No, they don't. Oh no. The female spring bars here diameter is not big enough to go onto the into the spring bar pegs, or whatever you want to call them. Oh well, that's a bit of a downer. I was hoping to wear this watch straight away, but such is life in the world of vintage watches. I will have to find new ones. No strap today for this watch. That's a bit of a shame because I was hoping to wear it, but what can I do? The lug width is 16 millimeters, and the studs here are about 1.1 millimeters in diameter. So if you have a couple of spring bars for me, please contact me via the website mitka.co.uk. So you can email me at m@mitka.co.uk, and I'll buy those of you. Until next time, have a good one.